You are about to listen to my conversation with Alex Sullivan, a young man who has experienced and persevered through a number of absolutely heart-wrenching things, the likes of which you will soon hear about. He's an incredible man and a serious inspiration to me, and I'm sure he will be to you as well, and I'm deeply grateful for his time here today. But he doesn't have a Facebook. Don't worry though, he will be sure to read your comments, but that being said, if you find this episode enlightening, educational, or inspiring, I would really appreciate you hitting that share button and that like button, and maybe even leaving a comment, because Alex can't do any of it himself. Additionally, because this episode is largely serious, although it is sprinkled with some laughter throughout, I don't want to interrupt its emotional flow with any commercials, so I will be airing those consecutively right at the beginning. You can skip or you can watch. That is a freedom that you hold. Lastly, if you want to support this show so we can continue to hear amazing stories from remarkable people, subscribe on YouTube, like my page on Facebook, donate on Venmo to The Paul Garcia Show, or, best of all, become a patron on patreon.com/Paul Garcia. Before we begin things, however, let me tell you about an event that's coming up that is very special to me and all of my Catholic friends and family from the Fairbury area. This coming Thursday, March 17th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., St. Andrew's Catholic Church in Fairbury is having its annual salad luncheon. This fantastic feast is put on by the wonderful volunteers of the Altar and Rosary Society, and the funds generated from it go towards numerous worthy causes, including St. Andrew Church functions and both national and local charities such as local food pantries. A meal is purchased by donation only, and you can dine in, carry out, or call in for delivery. You can call them up anytime after 7:30 a.m. on the 17th, and they'll prepare your meal for pickup, or they'll even deliver it to you. How amazing is that? They'll be serving delicious ham, cheese, rolls, and amazing homemade salads. So help out a number of meaningful causes this Thursday, March 17th, when you order from or dine in with the St. Andrew Salad Luncheon in Fairbury. The luncheon will run again from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m., and delivery and carry-out orders can be placed after 7:30 a.m. on March 17th by calling this number, 815-692-2555. I love this church and I love this event, so check it out. Hey you, are you a sharp, independent, charismatic person living in central Illinois? Are you looking for an exciting job with flexible hours where you will hone your sales, communication, and marketing skills and only occasionally be asked to come to a physical location in Fairbury? Well, Aftershock Decals and Design is a premier graphic design studio that's looking for a part-time salesperson to join their growing team. So whether you're a student looking to get some valuable experience while pursuing your degree, or a stay-at-home mom who's craving some part-time work and extra income, or someone who's just sick and tired of working an 8-to-5 desk job, this position could be exactly what you're looking for. I've ordered from these guys a number of times and they are so wonderful, and there's a reason they're adding to their sales crew, and it's because they are making tons of great graphics and prints and products, and they're growing every year. So become a better salesperson and make some serious moolah when you email your resume to KIRK, that's Kirk, KIRK at AftershockDD.com, or apply online at AftershockDD.com/jobs to begin what might be your dream career. That's Aftershock Decals and Design. They are wonderful. Since 1950, Dave's Supermarket in Fairbury has been wowing customers throughout central Illinois with their unmatched customer service, delectable deli market, beloved grocery carryout service, and many other fortes, which is why they've earned hundreds of 5-star reviews online. Dave's 3rd Street Deli has plenty of seating and is a destination place to meet your family and friends for good food, fun, and fellowship. Not only is their home-style fried chicken here the best around, but you can also enjoy free coffee and 50-cent ice cream every single day. You'll find hundreds of unique and signature items here at Dave's that you won't find anywhere else, like their famous potato salad, ham loaf, and canned meats, just to name a few. Dave's Supermarket is open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and offers online shopping and curbside services. Come experience this revered location that puts the super in supermarket when you shop at Dave's in Fairbury, Illinois, wowing the customer for over 70 years. Fairbury Furniture is Central Illinois' premier furniture store. This family-owned business offers a vast selection of premium furniture items from all of your favorite brands, including Sealy, Best Home Furnishings, Leather Italia, Tempur-Pedic, and Ashley, just to name a few. And right next door to their gorgeous 7,000 square foot furniture showroom, you will find the Fairbury Furniture Mattress Store, home to all of the latest and greatest mattresses in any and all sizes. Also inside Fairbury Furniture is the popular WC Market, a beloved shop that offers an ever-changing selection of unique gifts and fashionable home decor. Here at Fairbury Furniture, the staff is always helpful and friendly, and they are well stocked with all the mattresses, tables, chairs, recliners, couches, and decorative pillows that your heart desires. So make your home interior beautiful, comfortable, stylish, and delightful when you shop at Fairbury's own Fairbury Furniture.
Come on down to Fairbury Furniture, where the furniture rocks.
And now, please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Alex Sullivan. All right, and we are going. Alex Sullivan, thank you so much for coming on to my show today, man. I sincerely appreciate it, and I'm very happy to have you here, and I mean that for more reasons than one, and we'll get into what I mean by that exactly, but thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And before we just dive into this whole thing, let's give the people a little bit of a brief bio, an idea of who you are and what you've kind of been through, if you don't mind. And I also want to preface, I know this story's hard for you. I think I might have came into this a little laxed, and for people that don't know, we went to a coffee shop and we talked for nearly 3 hours just the other day. And I absolutely love the conversation, but I do know this is difficult for you. So again, perhaps I came into this a little too casual. Maybe it's also this espresso you just had. But I also I want to say thanks to the sponsors, because that espresso is freaking good. That's called Serious Coffee Roasters. They're with the Coffee Hound. Thank you very much, guys, for your coffee. I hope it fuels this conversation. But anyway, so I just wanted to clarify that. My apologies if I came in too casual. But yeah, basically, what have you lived through? You don't have to go too much into detail, but just so everyone kind of gets a gist of this.
I guess it was about 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, panic disorder, PTSD. And when I was really young, I was diagnosed with ADHD and auditory processing disorder. And all these things really made it very difficult for me in my life. And I didn't really get a lot of support. I got a lot of support from my teachers and some peers. But growing up, I guess I never really felt like I was listened to or heard. I've also been through some traumas.
Take your time on that. Maybe we can get to that, but at the end of the day, what we need to know now is basically you've been through a lot, and you've developed, or at least been diagnosed with, a lot of clinical disorders, and I would say they're extremely warranted. But let's talk about the things you used to do when you were, kind of like a teenager or a young kid. You told me about what you would do in your free time. You kind of go to these grain bin things, right?
So when I was younger, I kind of wanted to be like this Superman. I wanted to be this really strong soldier. I idolized people in the military, and I wanted to be that guy who could just do anything that was thrown at him, no matter how horrible it was, no matter how difficult it was for me, that I would get through it. And some things I would do I would try and harden myself doing that. I would go and if it was snowing outside, I would take as many articles of clothing off as I could without being indecent, and I'd jump in the snow. I'd take cold showers. I'd exercise a whole lot. That I would also, I would put myself in dangerous situations, oftentimes with heights, because I was afraid of heights. And there was this concrete place that has scaffolding, and I would climb this scaffold. It was about 50 feet, and what I would do is I would hang from this thing, and I would try to get over my fear of heights that way. But you know, the thing about that, I didn't actually get over my fear of heights. The fear stayed there. I think what I noticed was I started to become a little bit more comfortable, started to become more confident in myself, which kind of surprised me. I wasn't expecting something like that. I thought the fear would just leave.
And that's very interesting, because that makes perfect sense. When you are high up without support, you would hang from the scaffolding 50 feet in the air. There's 50 feet of free fall between you and the ground. There is always imminent danger, so there should always be fear, because that will kill you if you fall. So the fear should be there, but you said the confidence that you are not going to succumb to that potential danger grew. Perhaps that means your grip grew, or your ability to, your confidence in yourself to remain calm and be able to return to safety. Those things can grow, and I mean, that's what courage is. Courage is being scared and doing something anyway. You know, a lot of times doing the right thing is extremely scary because of the potential downfall. Literally, in your case, a potential downfall, but doing it anyway is in some ways courageous. You know, that's not exactly the type of courage that we want our kids to partake in, but It is still practicing courage, and it's very interesting hearing your recollection of doing these things. In addition to the jumping into snowdrifts, you know, half naked and hanging from this thing, I mean, were there any other big... It seems like you just tried to jump into difficult and scary circumstances, and that's very interesting. It reminds me of David Goggins. You know, you become aware of a danger, of a thing that freaks you out, and you're like, all right, well, that's next on the list of things to conquer, it seems.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. David Goggins really resonated with me. He is a huge inspiration to me. I get pumped up every time I hear watch one of his videos and see the next crazy thing he's doing. And I still get this like pull. It's like, you know, I gotta do this thing. I gotta go. I'll come up with something I have to do, and I'll just try and go do it, or I'll realize it's just too much, and I'll take a break or try and relax myself, come back down to earth.
Well, David Goggins is the man. I'm pretty sure I have his book back here somewhere. Or is it? Oh. Yeah, right here. Can't Hurt Me. This is unreal. I love that book so much. And man, that guy's got to be so inspiring to you and to people like you, because he went through the absolute worst childhood. I mean, he watched his mother get horribly abused regularly to the brink of death, and they would try to run away. They would have to come back. He was bullied like mad in an extremely racist town in Indiana, and he's a black guy, of course, and it seemed like the world was against him. And he was a sweet little kid, and I look at these pictures of him, I'm like, oh my gosh. He was like a chunkier, a very nice kid with a gentle smile, the kind of smile that looks like you're kind of helpless, because he was. But man, he was drinking shakes, chocolate shakes every day in his adulthood. He couldn't get into the seals. He failed that, and he was spraying for roaches in this restaurant for a long time, and he was like 300 pounds, seriously overweight, and he saw this Navy SEALs ad and on TV, and he wanted to go do it, but he had to lose 100 pounds or something like that in like, what was it, a month and a half? Something just unreal that sounds made up. but he did it. He got the job done, which is just incredible. I'm literally clenching my fists right now. But he came from, and he sought out these, he kind of became obsessed with overcoming these insane obstacles and putting himself through pain just to prove that he can persevere, I guess. I don't know. It's complicated. But that's largely become, it doesn't even take a psychological genius to figure this out. It's largely because he came from such horrible circumstances. He kind of wanted to prove to himself that, well, I don't know exactly what, but he came from terrible circumstances. Did you come from something similar, or do you just only share with David Goggins his desire to overcome terrible things?
I guess, yeah. Whenever I think about my own trauma, I never really took it seriously, not until recently. And I put myself down a lot, being like, well, you should just be fine. You should be okay. There's something wrong with you, Alex. But I can't do that anymore. I'm tired of that. I'll just jump in to what we were talking about when we first started. Yes, a few days ago. So when I was a little boy, I was molested by another child. And in my confusion, I went on to go do the same thing that happened to me. And ever since then, I had felt overwhelming guilt. And this guilt has pushed me to attempt suicide on multiple occasions. So when I was a kid, after all this stuff had unfolded, I don't think I told you this, but I actually started cutting myself. It was about 8 years old. I would find shards of glass around the apartment center, and I would take the top of my wrist, and I would just cut a bunch of times on the top of my wrist. And I would find high places that I would wouldn't like hurt me to the point to where I'd go to the hospital, but it was questionable. And I would jump off of them and see if my bones would break. And I never really understood that until recently, why I was doing that. And in a way, I'm still processing all this stuff right now. Right now, talking to you, this is a part of that process. And I'm hoping that doing this can help me through accepting myself for who I am, and to get on with my life.
And I mean, I remember we were in the sauna at Crunch Gym at Normal, and in Normal. And I remember you mentioned to me, because I was talking about the show, and you said, hey, I have kind of a remarkable story, I guess. And we started talking. I was immediately interested. And we even discussed, potentially, this was months ago, it was before Christmas, potentially having you on the show. And you seemed like you were all about it. And I appreciate your bravery and your courage coming on, because I can see it's still difficult to talk about. And that's yes, warranted. But I've also heard when people share their difficult stories on the show that it's therapeutic. And people watching, in the comments and whatnot, they're very kind. I'm blessed to not be so big that I have a ton of haters and trolls and stuff. But no, the people, I hope you get on Facebook and you read some of the comments that'll come from this. But talking about your childhood like this, the cutting is one thing that's interesting I want to talk about, and the jumping and seeing if your bones would break, because the jumping and seeing if your bones will break seems like largely just natural kid curiosity, because between when you're just before puberty, you're constantly seeing where out of bounds is. That's why it's important that kids wrestle. I preach that till the day I die. Wrestling's so important because you have to figure out what hurts. You know, and when you're 1 to 5 years old and you're a kid and your parents are raising you, this is why discipline's important for a parent. All a kid is trying to do, they're literally wired. They're what's the word? Calibrating. They're figuring out where out of bounds is. So they're gonna steal something from you and see if they can get away with it. And if they do, you're screwed, because you have to show them sternly where out of bounds is. They're going to scream at least once in a restaurant. You have to show them where out of bounds is. You have to let kids skateboard. That's a chapter in that Jordan Peterson book. You know, let kids skateboard. Let them do things dangerously. Don't interrupt them when they're doing dangerous things carefully. That's what he says. So you have to figure out what hurts and what not. So you jump from ledges. I remember jumping from ledges. Every kid will jump from ledges unless they're a total dork, you know? And that's interesting, and I'm interested to hear your input on that, but also the cutting. That's what's fascinating. I just finished a book by world-renowned psychologist or neurologist Carl Jeung, and he talks about the phenomena of cutting. In fact, I think it has its whole own chapter. And cutting is such a strange and universally it's a universal disease that gets people all over the world and always has. Cutting, especially at the arms. And what that does, and usually what it is a product of, is someone's internal state being so chaotic. And really what that means is they have such significant mental distress that they cut themselves on the surface of their skin in hopes that it'll redirect their attention from the internal, the inescapable internal, to the physical external, you know, something outside of them, also that they're in control of, you know. So rather than, it is inflicting pain on yourself, it is redirecting your attention, but it's not. Some people think it's like an attempt to kill yourself or something, like you're flirting with this killing yourself, but it doesn't seem like that's the case based on the literature. Does that sound like complete baloney to you, or
no?
Is it resonating at all?
That makes total sense. Yeah. Like I wasn't trying to kill myself at all. Like I was just trying to, I don't know. I guess I saw this piece of glass and I just felt compelled to just do that.
Do you remember being in significant mental distress at that time of your life? You just ate?
Well, I looked at the time period and I figured, you know, it makes sense why I would do that, because I would have all this guilt and shame and with nobody to talk to about it. And I had my mom, you know, I had family members, but they never heard anything. They never heard a peep out of me about it. And most of them, some of them know now, but if they were to all listen to this podcast, they would be hearing it for the first time.
How old were you when you said you were molested by another child? How old were you? How old were they? He or she, I guess. I didn't even think about that, but how old were they? How old were you when that happened to you? If you don't mind me asking.
I think I was about 6 or 7, and they were in my age group for sure. We would play sometimes.
I'm hesitant to ask. Feel free to decline. Absolutely. Sure. Like I mean it's completely respectfully. What exactly was the molestation? Like what it consist of?
It was oral. Oral sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a guy, obviously a boy.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
And I don't blame that little kid at all for any of that. They probably had something like that happen to them at some point. And I'm in no way resentful of that child.
God bless you. I mean, man, that shows that you've kind of gotten largely over this. At least you've taken one big step there. And I'm going to say this, and fight me on it if you want. And we briefly discussed it when we got coffee the other day.
Yeah.
I've read, this is, first of all, I bold statement, I think probably 1/10 of people, I think children doing this type of thing, but also molestation from like adults to children, kids that have experienced this type of thing, I think probably 1 out of 10 probably let people know about that. I think it happens far more often than we think. And my big thing is on this show, I'm not big on not talking about things that are crazy to talk about, that are taboo to talk about. I'm not big on not talking about them. I think we should, you leave things in the shadow, they grow and they get moldy and they just, they fester and they get bigger and bigger and they loom and they grow in the shadows. Put them out in the light, you shine it on them and they shrink, And so I don't mind talking about this type of thing. It's I want to look out for you, Who cares if I don't mind talking about it? I want to respect you and your story because it's astonishing and it's a force for good, the fact that you're telling it. But I've read that a specific story from a psychologist, a good psychologist, he talked about a woman who was like 27, was coming to him, and she was telling him that, when she was literally your age, she had the same thing happen to her. I think 6 or 7 years old, she had a boy who was a friend who was 1 year older than her, she remembered, and he would do that. He would put his penis and everything in her mouth, and, that would be that. And she came to this man, this psychologist, for like a year. And the whole time she's saying this giant, this very intimidating, strong guy overpowered me, and he would do this. And for a full year, he thought this guy was like 30. And he thought it was very recent. And he thought she was, 27 or, well, I said he was a year older than her. So like, they were in their late 20s. And he thought it was recent. But then she said, one day he asked, how old were you when this happened? She said 6 or 7. And it just goes to, and that changed everything. His jaw dropped. He's like, whoa, time out. And he goes on to explain, kids are insanely curious about this type of thing. First of all, let alone if this happened to him, of course he's going to do it to another kid. I mean, look, that's actually what happened to you. But children's brain at that age are not even full size. Maybe they're not even half to full size. They don't know what they're doing exactly. Kids do weird things. I did weird things. I don't care. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to tell weird stories about myself, but like that happened to you, and that's insanely unfortunate. I'm deeply sorry for that because that's disturbing to your psyche today. I'm positive. And then the fact that you did it to someone else, I just want to reemphasize that you don't bear responsibility for that. You don't. You weren't even at the age of reason. It's not even sin because you didn't know what you were doing. You might have felt funny about it, but you didn't know how to navigate that. And someone did it to you. You didn't understand until later how terrible it was. And I just want to say that, yeah, I can't erase your guilt, but I just want to remind you that you're not obligated to feel that in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Of course. So, what was your family life like at this time? Because, I mean, could you go to your family and talk about this event that had happened to you, or?
No.
No. Why not? I'm sure it was scary, but.
I was ashamed. I didn't go up to them. And I never felt like I could. Because having emotions in my family wasn't very easy. a lot of my mother is probably going to listen to this podcast.
Oh, okay. So you kind of want to watch what you say and stuff. I mean, hey, man, the truth, I don't mean to make you do something you're not comfortable with, but the truth is the truth, you know? The truth will set you free, bring it out in the light, yada, 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 you know? And God bless your mom. I mean, you've told me she's been a big part of, you know, your ability to, well, just be around, you know? She's helped you a lot. So, again, God bless her.
My mom is a tough person. She was very strong. She raised my sister and I with nothing on her back. She was a single child, a single parent, and she was going to school. She was going to college to be a speech language pathologist. Mm-hmm. At the same time, she was able to give us just about everything we needed, even if we didn't get the emotional support that we needed. My mom has always been somewhat of an emotionally immature person. And what I mean by that is feeling those emotions or understanding the emotions was very difficult for her to do. And because of that, I think it's because of that I didn't know if I could tell my mom, because I would go up to her with other things and it would be, well, it just wouldn't be easy. It would go straight to logic. It wouldn't go to an emotional place. And that's kind of what an emotionally immature person does. They'll go from, say you're talking about something emotional, like I'm having this feeling. They can't stay in that space. They have to go to a logical place, or they have to go to a solution to actually to deal with that emotion that other person is feeling. That doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. It's just more difficult for them to process what's going on because they never really had the opportunity themselves when they were kids to learn how to deal with their own emotions. Or maybe they also had an emotionally immature parent.
And it's so crazy because it's so crucial to become emotionally intelligent, because if you aren't intelligent, if you can't, I think it's valuable to have a wide emotional vocabulary, you know, to explain what you're feeling. Because if you can't explain what you're feeling, you don't know what you're feeling. And then if you don't know what you're feeling, you don't know how to counteract that at all. You know, how to start feeling better. You know, you're trying to fight this monster and you don't even know what it looks like. You don't even know how to fight it. So that's interesting. And people, if you're not emotionally intelligent, or at least you fail to acknowledge your emotions for whatever reason, maybe you're too scared to do it, maybe you don't want to come off weak, you run the risk of those emotions developing into pathological disorders, you know, it's mental illness. But then again, being tough, I think that worrying about our emotions is kind of a thing that we can afford to worry about when you have it good enough. But sometimes for like a single parent, or maybe like, you know, early humans, they were just focused on surviving. It's like, hey, I know you're feeling some uneasy way, but do you have food to eat? I do. Okay, problem. I mean, that's all that matters. But what do you think? What do you think happened because you weren't given the emotional support that you needed. What do you think it would have done for you if you did?
Well, I think the result of that was I ended up retreating into my imagination a lot. I was a very creative kid. When I was in kindergarten, I had this, there was this, what was it? It was like an art project or art competition or something. I drew this. Obviously, it's not Mozart. Like I'm a child. It was a picture of a spaceship and a bunch of flowers, and then there were clouds above the flowers, and what would happen? Yeah. So we had the art show. We had to describe what was in the picture. And I think it was the description that won the art contest, but it was the clouds would rain white water, and the flowers would soak up the water, and it would fuel the spaceship to go into space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain that. What's that mean?
I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. No, art's hugely important. Like, I lean right on most conservative issues, or on most political issues, not even, maybe a little more than half. One thing I don't agree with that I'm very left on is the importance of art. Art is huge. I mean, good, solid art, real art, which is what real art is the, how do I say this? It's the manifestation, the conceptualization of concepts and ideas and realities that we don't yet know how to articulate. And that's why great artists, they create these things and they confess that they are more of a conduit from God. You know, and I'm not saying like, just the Christian God, but some higher power, something is using them, and they are just a funnel, a conduit through which these graces flow into creating something that puts us in a state of awe, you know what I mean? Or makes us understand, a picture really is worth a million words, Art is hugely important. When we express something in the form of true art, authentic art, it can change the world. There's a reason why Mozart and Beethoven and their music is still relevant and powerful. It just makes humans feel and understand things that text just can't, So I wish we could dig deeper about your art thing, because I think there's something there, something deeper that you don't even understand about your drawing.
I interpret dreams too. I don't think I mentioned that. I'm really big into Carl Jung. Mm-hmm. I went through a big period of self-discovery, and
who is a student of Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
Just for people that might know that name more.
Yeah, and I knew Freud and Jung were talking about dreams, and so I looked up like how you would interpret dreams, and a lot of it is just taking the symbols in your dream and trying to understand what they mean in the big picture. So like, what is the archetype that all of these symbols are representing? Or yeah.
And then the archetype is kind of like the pillar, the peak of this thing, just like Jesus Christ is the archetype of man.
Yeah.
It is the culmination of everything that man could be if it was perfect. Mm-hmm. And if you look at countries, the archetypal country, some people might say it's the United States. Of course, we're extremely biased, but it's just like the top tier of what you could be if all the components of this thing were, correct. But continue. You said you try to, how do you read dreams again? You said you try to figure out what everything's kind of pointing to?
Yeah. So you take the symbols, say, I guess I could try and do one of yours if you had a dream recently.
Okay, here, let me try. Well, watch you get this terribly wrong.
I'll
Okay.
probably get it terribly wrong. It's not. easy. You won't get...
Dude, I'll tell you my dream. Good luck, because
Okay,
it makes no
okay.
sense, I don't think. Sometimes my dreams, I'll get up and journal about them, and then I'm like, whoa, whoops, whoa. Like, I'll get this deep understanding, only if they're complicated, relevant dreams. I'll tell you about a dream I had one time that was probably... What's up?
Could I borrow that notebook?
Sure. A dream I had one time that was just so strange. It's very simple. This only happened one time either. So I was in a church, and it was a stone church, and I was up at the front. It was a Catholic church, and there was an altar, and I looked around. I was at the front, almost like a priest would give, say a mass. He would face everyone. And I was kind of in that position. I was behind the altar, but no one was in the pews. It was a stone church. It looked like it was straight from like the medieval times. And this loud booming sound, it was so weird. It was almost like the sound of bass in a car, It's just like, like that. That's what I mean. It was like, so I start turning around because apparently there's something behind me. And I'm just going like this, as this sound is it's like the bass sound is almost like a strong wind. It's making it difficult to turn around, and I'm like fighting to turn around. And so I turn around, and there's a chalice, this like golden chalice, and it's weirdly like, I don't think it's floating. It's like somehow on the wall, and I like pull it out of the wall. They're off the wall, and it's like,
The chalice is on the wall?
Yes, yeah. I don't know how, but it's kind of on the wall, almost like it was on a shelf or something. And then I take it off the wall slowly, and it's like this thing is fully charged with like unlimited power or something like that. I'm like, in the movies when they try to reach for something, it's like too powerful and they can barely get through to it, lest they blow up or something. But so I grab this thing slowly, and I turn back around to the room of empty pews, and this bass is just like still going, and this thing's like amazing. I'm holding it up, and I try to talk, and all I say is, all that comes out of my mouth, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? Is just God. I say God, and this thing's like that, and I'm like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's in my dream, and it feels so real. I'm like, what's happening? All of a sudden I wake up, and I'm crying. I hadn't cried probably in years prior to that, and this was probably a year ago. And I woke up crying, and not just little tear, like watery eyes, like almost bawling. I couldn't believe it. It was insane. And I said some prayers, and it was just amazing. It was gnarly, man. It was probably the most powerful moment as far as spirituality goes that I've ever had. All right, what you got? So, you got any questions or?
So when you turned around, were there a bunch of people in the pews?
No people. No people throughout the dream. It was just me and this chalice.
Okay. Well,
pull that mic a little closer to you.
Yeah, sure. So you're in a church, and you're in the front of the church. You're facing everyone, but there's nobody there. You hear a loud noise. Is it like a vibrating noise?
Yes, exactly. The whole time, the whole dream. This dream's like 30 seconds or a minute.
So then, do you sense somebody behind you?
Yes. Or something. It feels big.
And then it's hard to turn around.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like there's a pressure against me. Like, it doesn't feel like hands or anything, but it's just like a strong wind. You know how you can lean into a strong tornado-like wind? You have to like march forward, or picture someone in a blizzard, Krusty Krab pizza. You ever seen that? And when he's like marching through the wind and stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's like that.
And then there's the chalice. What is a chalice?
The chalice in the Mass, in the Catholic Mass, it's a golden cup, really, but it holds the body and blood of Christ. So the wine, and I don't think it actually holds the Eucharist. That's something else. But Yeah, it holds the body and blood of Christ. It's like definitely a center point of the Mass. You know, he holds up the chalice before consecrating the Eucharist and the wine and the water and the wine, and he says, you know, he holds it up. Take this, all of you, and drink of it. This is my body, which will be given up for you. I might have gotten the words mixed up there, but it's a body. It's a blood of Christ, so it's important, and it's a beautiful cup.
Okay, and so you see this chalice, and you can sense a tremendous amount of power.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Power or something.
Okay. And then you turn around and you're holding the chalice, and all you can did you have a lot to say, but what came out was God, or was it just God?
That's a good question. I think I had a lot to say, but all that came out was God. It's a good question.
You know, obviously this has a lot to do with your belief in God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're in a church in the front pew. The whole setting.
Not in the front pew, actually.
Okay.
In front of everyone. So there's like in front of everyone. There's stairs that go up, and then there's an altar, and then there's a tabernacle behind that, and it's hard to explain if you haven't been to a Catholic Mass.
Okay. Well, yeah. So you're there, and the setting is a Catholic church, so the setting is really important because it provides literally. So the dream can provide you insight into how you're feeling in a particular situation. Maybe it really just depends. I think that's what's going on in this dream. So you're standing in the front, and you're looking out at a sea of empty pews. You know, I think that this is, and this might just be because of the significance to this situation to me, but it might be your desire to preach to people about your beliefs. And I think, and the reason why I think that is because there's a lot of symbolism around God and your beliefs. And, you know, I think this is something, it was hard for you to turn around and look at the chalice. It was hard for you to really gaze upon the thing that you were looking at, that you wanted. Mm-hmm. How did you feel when you saw the chalice?
Dumbstruck, just like, oh snap, pretty intimidated, but also just amazed, really. You know, it's like, whoa, you know, it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's like someone just unveiled the world's biggest diamond and no one else has seen it. It's just like, oh snap, you know, kind of takes your breath away type of thing.
I think that this dream is about your feeling that you have some hidden knowledge that you wish to share with the world. And I think that's true because of the contents that you talk about all the time on your show. I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and you do have some consistencies that go along with a belief system, and it's primarily Christian or biblical. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what this is about. And this thing, it's very powerful. You have this intense feeling of power in this. And
it's not personal power.
Yeah.
Though. You know, it's just like
absolutely, yeah.
Something has power, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm not willing, if I'm, it's almost like if I'm worthy of, you know, even touching this chalice. But then I grab it and I hold it up, and it's like, whoa, and then all of a sudden all I can say is God, you know? So
Yeah, I think. Do you often do you want to? Do you feel like you need to tell people about some knowledge that you? Do you feel like you have something that's worth sharing that you feel is amazing?
It's complicated to answer. Yes, I think I have a deeper understanding of certain aspects of God that even almost all of my Christian friends have not taken the time, nor had they had the time to deeply consider and ponder like I have and learn from a lot of experts. Because my fascination with God is like, hey, if God's real, whatever God is, that's the most important thing. Yes, I mean, I do, to answer your question. I think I have thought and been able to articulate, which is no easy task, these concepts and these ideas and these philosophies, I don't know what else to call them really, that I think if people heard them, it would at least make them stop and think. And I know that's the case because I've done it a few times, not on my podcast. Something feels wrong about me. I've talked a lot in this podcast, but to talk just about myself on a show because I'm trying to get people's incredible stories. There's something called the zone of proximal development. When you know about 80% of what you're saying, and then there's like 20% of not really, you're still learning. When a teacher, when they're teaching kids something and they want them to learn new things, they have to teach within the zone of proximal development if they want the best results, which means the kids are right 80% of the time and wrong 20% of the time. If they're tough and resilient, they can be wrong 30% of the time. If they're wimps, they can only be wrong 10% of the time. But if they're wrong 50% of the time, it's too punishing, and they're not engaged, and they're not driven to learn more, and they don't feel good, and it's just not conducive to the overall enlightenment of whatever the subject may be. That said, the best time to really talk about what you're learning about is when you understand it pretty well, but you're still learning. And I don't know if I understand it pretty well enough, what I've thought and what I think, because for Pete's sakes, it's not metaphysics, but I'm working to understand the mechanisms by which this underlying metaphysical foundational component of all of reality, how that works and operates and manifests, and why praying to God, why would you pray to a saint? Why would God ask that we pray in order to bring about his will that is also our will? It's extremely complicated, and I hesitate to say that, to talk about it, at least on this type of podcast forum, because I don't know if I understand it well enough, and I don't know if it'll be conducive to everyone else's enlightenment if I just blab and I barely know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? But I think their desire is there. I think I have a deeper understanding than most people, but I don't know if it's enough for me to feel comfortable talking about it. And it is about God. It's also about other things, you know. Good heavens, I'm talking a lot.
That's okay.
This is a podcast. I'm supposed to talk to you.
I know I'm the
interviewer. Yeah, you're good at this, man. Thanks for asking me. That's deep, but
cool. I wrote all these symbols down for you if you want to take a look at them.
Well, thank you very much. Wow, your handwriting's really good.
It's really bad.
No, okay. Gosh dang it. Moving on with your story, man. Thank you. Tilt that mic up. There you go. That was interesting. We just took a deep dive into my psychology. Okay, look here. So things are not great in your life. We're jumping back to your life, right? And damn. I mean, when you're young and you know, you start growing up, you start pushing the limits, putting yourself in dangerous situations, putting yourself through pain. Your mom's not giving you the emotional support you need. Where's your dad? There's a good place to start.
He was addicted to methamphetamine, and he was excommunicated from my family, and he wasn't allowed to see me. And when I was a little kid, I took that as my dad wants drugs more than he wants to see me, or more than he wants to be around me, because I never got a Christmas card or a phone call. ever from him. I found out later he actually did. But
pardon me.
My mother and my grandparents didn't want him to communicate with me. And I found this out because it was about a year or two ago, I actually went to go see him. And he was not doing too well. He's in the same exact boat that he was before. And that was hard. That was really hard to see. We hung out. I spent the night there. He smoked some meth while I was there. His girlfriend did it, and my half brother, along with him, he was going through meth psychosis.
What's that?
So he was withdrawing from methamphetamine, and he's basically going insane. Like I'm not qualified to really talk about it, I guess. I don't really know much about it, but he was going, he was doing a pretty good job at driving himself insane. He was asking me, "Are you a cop?" I was like, "No, you drove all the way from Maine to come see me, and you're the one who got me over here to go talk to my dad." And he was completely removed from reality. And the only thing that got him feeling better, the only thing that kept him from driving after being deprived of sleep for 3 days back to Maine was this is one of the hardest decisions I had to make. I had to convince him to smoke meth to calm his ass down. And that was hard. That was hard to do.
Okay, so your dad and your half brother are doing meth. Do you still hang out with them, or
No.
no? Did you ever do meth?
I've never done meth. No.
Good for you. Wow.
No. I saw them doing that, and I told them, "No, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I do." I was very aware of. I am not confident that if I were to smoke meth, I would never do it again. I mean, look at what it does to people. Completely destroys their lives. Their only motivation is to come back and try and get that next hit. And it doesn't matter how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that and heroin. I've had people on the show who have done meth and been addicted to meth and heroin, and it's just insane. And they've explained, I don't know exactly how, I won't even speculate, but like their withdrawal, or just when they're at the height of their addiction, especially with meth, I think, they start to think they hear voices and whatnot. The paranoia sets in. And I had heard one guy say he thought he heard screams, and he went into detective mode and started searching around like every night for these people that he was trying to save. You know, there was good in him, but yeah, dangerous, crazy drug.
Oh, yeah. Like, just because you take a drug doesn't make you a bad person at all. If a drug takes you, it takes you. And it's by sheer brute force will that you can get out of that.
It's amazing that you never got wrapped up into it, because most people do it because they're so low and they just want an escape. But good for you for not getting into it. Maybe there's something helping you out. You never know. Maybe someone was saying some prayers for you.
Yeah, I knew I had an addictive personality at the time because, well, I was addicted to alcohol for a while.
When you're in the military, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went to the military after high school and whatnot. You graduated high school.
Yeah. On top of drinking, I was using marijuana as well. And I convinced myself that I needed it to function when I was just really, it whacked me out. Like I was hearing things in the walls and shit. It was bad. Like, and I was, they called it cannabis use disorder and alcohol use disorder when I was diagnosed in the first psychiatric hospital that I went to. And I guess I'll go into that. So when I was at my unit, I was drilling up in Pontiac, and I don't really remember how all this. Oh yeah. So I had a panic attack. I don't even know if I told you this. I had a panic attack that was so bad, my whole body locked up right before we were about to go on an FTX, a field training exercise. And we were going to be gone for about 2 weeks, and I just couldn't handle it. And so I think what physiologically was happening was I had too much oxygen in my blood, and that was causing all my muscles to tense up, and I just completely seized. My face was stuck in this really contorted position. It was very painful. I could feel it. I felt it first in my fingertips, and then I felt it go down my arms and up from my toes up to my knees, and then it kept going, and then I felt something hard starting to form in my gut, and sorry, Grandma. I felt something really hard starting to form in my gut, and then it spread throughout my torso and up to my face, and I remember being in a position kind of like this, and my face was contorted and my mouth was open and I couldn't move.
Jeez, look like a corpse.
Yeah, I might as well have. But they immediately called an ambulance. First of all, I just want to say sorry for every person, to everybody in my unit. I feel horrible that I could not be there, that I could not be strong for you guys. And I just want to, there is not a day that goes by that I wish I could have just sucked it up and handled that situation. And I feel like I let you guys down. And I really did let myself down. I let myself down when I couldn't handle this situation.
Now, do you think you had even the conscious ability to override what was happening in your body, or what? Like, it seems, from what I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like you had any say in the matter. So I don't know if you could will yourself through that type of thing. Like, what, if you were more brave or something, do you think you could have broken out of that lock and gone to the field training thing? Or how'd you even fail them, really? And what did you do wrong? I don't know if you might be being too hard on yourself. I don't know.
I probably am being too hard on myself.
Well, stop it.
I do that too. I do that a lot. I'm very hard on myself. I don't know if I would have been able to. And right now it doesn't really matter to me at this point, at this moment in my life, because it happened. I can't change the way I was or what happened in my past. And I think that the reason why all that stuff happened was because of experiences I went through in my past and being very confused as a child, and then going into something I wasn't necessarily prepared. I wasn't prepared for. I wasn't fit for the military. I was physically strong. My PT was amazing. like basic training, top 3 PT score. Very good. I could shoot. I was very good at shooting. I shot expert a few times. But when it came down to the nerves, it just wasn't there for me. I couldn't do it. And I just wasn't mentally fit for it.
The nerves, what do you mean? What nerves arise? Like, how did your nerves get put to the test?
I think it was mostly because I was drinking, and the effects of the withdrawals were creating like tremors. And then I developed anxiety and panic from that. I think that's what was going on. But even after I stopped drinking, the panicking anxiety continues. So I'm not entirely sure if that's how it all happened. But yeah.
Do you do anything to combat that?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yes, I do meditation. Like the Wim Hof method I told you about earlier.
Did it right before the show.
Yeah.
I told you my sister's doing that, and it's pretty cool. I can hold my breath I'm getting on 4 minutes now. I love the Wim Hof stuff. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, I love Wim Hof. Wim Hof is great. If you're having anxiety problems, it is one of the best things you can do for yourself. I would just look it up if you don't know what it is.
Before taking like anti-anxiety medication?
Okay, I'd say listen to your therapist, listen to your psychiatrist. Like if you're seeing somebody for therapy and you're seeing a psychiatrist and they're prescribing you medication, even if it doesn't feel like it's working right away, just give it some time, because eventually it'll kick in, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I know it sucks. Like you get, this happened with me. I went through so many different anti-anxiety, antidepressants while I was seeing a psychiatrist, and it took a long time for me to find the right thing. But yeah.
I don't mean to ask about your medical information, but are you taking some now?
Not right now. So currently.
Wow, man.
So I told you I have ADHD. Mm-hmm. I got back with my primary care, and I'm now on, it's like a low dose Ritalin. So, and that's been helping me. I'm not on it right now because I feel like it makes me, it excites me a bit too much in stressful situations. And I knew that this was going to be stressful for me because I have a performance anxiety. And so I didn't take that because, and I feel like it inhibits creative thought in a way.
Sure.
A little bit. But other than that, I think it's almost necessary for functioning like a normal person.
I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I know you always want to listen to your trusted medical providers, professionals, and everything. I do know though, and if someone knows more than me, everyone knows more than me in this when I say this, but like medical doctors, I know there's DOs, doctors of osteopathy, and they go a more musculoskeletal route with their stuff. I don't know. I shouldn't even mention that, but I believe that MDs have a quota to meet. Like there's a point system that if they prescribe more, I'll say stronger medications or surgeries even, they get more points that they have to meet at the end of the year maybe or something. Or like they get, I don't know. I know there's problems. I dated a girl who was in med school and she would tell me about this, but I'm not recalling it very well.
Wow.
And so that's why she's wants to go into that field and kind of do it how she thinks is right and not go based off of a point system where doctors are incentivized to prescribe stronger medications for either a financial kickback or just to meet a quota. I don't know, but I don't know. I know doctors are great. They usually will go into those things for the right reasons and everything, but at the end of the day, they might have to play by a rule set that maybe isn't isn't all good, I guess. I don't know. Again, someone correct me. Perfectly fine. But anyway, so it seems like you're doing fairly well for not taking any serious antidepressant medication. Like I'm very impressed. So good for you.
Yeah, I went from being on a huge cocktail of stuff to not having any medication whatsoever.
Would you promote like meditation and everything and mindfulness?
Yes, 100%. Even if you don't think you need it, it's so good for you. Even if you don't have mental health issues, it's so good for you. By the way, if you're depressed, try doing something new. Go out and do something that you're afraid of. I know it's hard to like get out of bed sometimes, and like and you don't think that there's any meaning. Maybe there's no meaning to it, but doing this new thing will excite you in a way that you haven't been excited in a while. And if it's okay if it doesn't work. Sometimes, and even so, that advice might not work for you. If it doesn't work for you, go see a psychiatrist. Go see a see somebody. Go see somebody before you take my advice. Mm-hmm. Because really, what do I know? I only know things that worked for me, and it did take a lot of trial and error to figure this stuff out for me. So I wouldn't have all the answers for you, and I don't think anybody who says they have all the answers for you, they don't have it.
Mm-hmm. What did you do? You said go out and do something that frightens you. Yeah. What did you do?
I couldn't find a job. I was living in an apartment by myself. My sister had moved out, and I had to find somewhere to live pretty quickly. So I moved in with my mom in Champaign and her husband. I lived in the basement for 4 years. But in that 4 years, that's when I started really digging deep into psychology and trying to understand Carl Jung and all that stuff. But it was around, I remember I got big. I gained a bunch of weight, and I was I remember waking up and being like, oh my God, what happened to me? I used to be very fit. What's going on? And then very slowly, as I started training and losing the weight, I decided, it's like, you know what, I'm going to do something. I have to do something. And then this idea came up in my head. I was going to go on a road trip to California, and I wasn't going to plot my route. I wasn't going to, I had nothing particularly planned. I was just going to go there, see my friend, and come back and see what happened on my way there and back. So that's what I set out to do. This was very uncomfortable for me.
Just to go out and see him. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so weird. It felt like something I needed to do. But I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I had my reason for doing it at the time was I needed to find myself, find out who I really was. And I did. It was an amazing experience.
You went out and hiked some mountains then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I did.
On the way to your friend and on the way back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell that one story.
My God. I have to pee.
Yeah, me too. All right, we're back after a quick bathroom break. We were just talking about your mountain expedition, and I know you have one cool story at least to tell about the mountains.
I drive maybe 30, 45 minutes to this trail, and I start hiking up. It's pretty easy because it's just a straight, like, it's like a class 1. So it's just like a regular old walking trail. It's steep, so that part of it was pretty difficult at first. But I remember coming around this bend, which opened up into a valley, and the mountain is just covered in snow, and I'm pretty tired. I'm at probably about like 9,000 feet in elevation at this point. And I mean, Bloomington normal, this is like 500 feet in sea level. The air is thick down here. Up there, 9,000 feet, it is not easy to breathe. And I hear something. It was like a womanly voice. And it felt like it was like beckoning me up to the top of this mountain that I saw in the distance past the valley.
It's like the sirens. You've heard the story of the sirens.
Yes. I compare it to that all the time. It felt like a siren calling me up to my death.
Which the story was in Greek mythology, that these men would be at sea and there would be an island in the distance and you'd hear these beautiful female voices and it would lure the people driving the ship over to there and then they would eat them or kill them or something at least. But so anyway, this similar voice is calling you up to the top of the mountain. Was it actually audible or was it a feeling?
I think it was more of a feeling that manifested in my head as audible. So that's probably what was going on.
Okay.
It probably wasn't an actual figure up there calling me out.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Maybe there's so...
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
What is that noise? And you took it as something almost spiritual. But what was it saying? Just come on up?
It wasn't like come on up. It was more like a sound that was like a call. A mating call almost.
Oh, okay.
You could put it that way.
Interesting. You thought you were going to get some at the top of the mountain?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so I have that strange experience, and then I don't really think much of it. I'm just kind of walking. Eventually, I get to this spot where the trail kind of disappears over this patch of snow, and I'm just like, well, I'm not stopping. I gotta go somewhere. I didn't come up here for no reason. I'm gonna summit something. So I look off to my right past the valley, and then there's a mountain, and I saw what you look at when you looked at this mountain is some fresh, healthy trees, and then there's an area where the trees looked dead. They started to die at a certain point. And then there was just nothing. No trees, just rocks. And I was like, that looks badass.
And that's just simply the point where there is not enough oxygen higher than this point right here for life to live.
I'm not entirely sure, because if you go up near, if you take the trek up to Everest Base Camp along the way, you go through like 16,000 feet, 17,000 feet, and there are trees around. So
maybe there's special trees or something, I don't know.
Maybe. It might just be local to the area, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. But anyway, looks cool to you.
Yeah, it looks really cool to me. And
it's not on the trail, though.
It's not on the trail. I decide I'm going to go off trail and hike directly up to what I was looking at. I was starting to get pretty tired because I've never spent this much time in like altitude before. Eventually, I get to a point where all the trees were dying, and I take a picture. And I told you about this picture. Is that one where my phone died mid-shutter?
Mm-hmm. So half the picture's black.
Part of the picture is, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's like a bar at the bottom of the picture, like a gray bar. And my foot's in the picture. And in the background, it was a picture of another valley with this huge snowstorm coming my way. But I wasn't really paying attention to that. I was just like, shit, my phone died. And I was just hoping I got that picture because I thought it was really cool. And I didn't think of anything of it. Like I didn't see the snowstorm coming. It's like, all right, well, time to go up. Mm-hmm. And I get to a point where I'm like just huffing and puffing. Like I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm having a hard time processing what's happening around me. I get this headache, and I make the decision to head back down, but not before I see this huge wall of snow coming towards me, this snowstorm that I had neglected to acknowledge on my way up. And I start walking down, and I realize I'm not going to get back until it's dark. And it's snowing. There's a bunch of clouds in the sky. I'm in the middle of the wilderness.
It's about to be dark.
It's about to be dark.
Mm-hmm. Like real dark.
Real dark. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I decide that I'm going to slide down the side of the mountain on my ass. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I get like a little bit of a running, I run a little bit, I take a couple steps, and then I try and slide. And then I would aim for trees on my way down. I did that a couple times. It was successful those times. The last time I did it, it was not successful. And I missed the tree. And I kept going, and I started picking up speed. And I still had my stick with me. I needed this thing to like get through that section of deep snow. Mm-hmm. And that thing flew out of my hand, so I was freaking out. And I turned around, I got on my...
While you're sliding down the mountain.
I'm sliding down this mountain, and
And what, you got it like jammed into the snow as you're sliding? It's just like... It's slowing you down? Is it like a brake?
Yeah, so I lose this thing because I take it, I put it parallel to the ground, and I try to shove it into the snow. Mm-hmm. And then it flies out of my hand, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I just shove my hands into the snow, and and to try and slow myself down so I can grab this thing. And I get a hold of it, and almost immediately after I grab it, I hit something really hard, and I'm just kind of laying there, and I feel the snow on my face. It's getting dark.
And you hit a rock.
I hit a rock. Yeah. Yeah. After this happened, I was really scared that I was going to die because it was about to get dark. I didn't know where. I didn't want to get lost. And it was about to get really cold. And I wasn't even near my car. But I get up and I'm like, I shake myself up. I'm like, am I okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Let's just get down. I'm fine. And then, so I keep going, and I get to that section again, and I'm just like, man, at this point, so as I was like going down the mountain, the snow that was on my gloves melted and froze over my gloves. So it was really difficult to move my gloves. And the stick that I had was completely covered in ice. So it was hard to carry that thing. Like my hands would slip on it. And I was having a very difficult time pulling myself out of the waist-high snow. So I just started trudging through it. And I don't think I'd ever been so tired in my life. So it gets really dark at this point, and I have this little tiny flashlight. It has the bulb is about as small as that little flash on your phone.
Mm-hmm. Tiny little dot.
Yeah, it's like a little dot, and you press the button, and it's just you get a little bit of light, a little bit of fluorescent light, and it's pitch dark. And I feel really lucky to have made it out of this, but I found the trail, and I managed to get down. And I was so stoked that all that stuff had just happened. Mm. Like I couldn't believe it.
And so you were trudging through that snow, and eventually you found the trail and you got back to your car. And right,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was gonna take this stick with me because it's like it was a token of like this experience I just went through. And then I woke up the next morning and decided I was gonna leave it at the base of the mountain and give it back because this isn't mine. Mm-hmm. Belongs here.
And it saved your life.
Yeah,
man. Well, just for the interest of time here, mm-hmm. and for everyone listening, I want to kind of talk before this conversation ends.
Yeah.
So you return home, and things, you even had some more adventures when you're out on the road. In brief, you did mushrooms with some guys, and it was an incredible experience, you said. And the stars, you could literally tell which stars were red giants, and it was kind of a cool thing, and it sounded really cool. But you go home, right? And things, before they kind of go back up and get good, things were rough. And we didn't even mention, the difficult times you had in the military with the National Guard.
I was really depressed, and I had a little while back purchased a 9mm pistol, and I'd wake up every morning. Well, I wouldn't do this every morning, but it would be frequent, multiple times a week. I would load my pistol, I would chamber around, and then I would take the magazine out, and I would clear the barrel, but I wouldn't check to see if the round was still in there or if the round had ejected. I could usually tell when it came out, but sometimes I would lay on my bed so I didn't hear the round drop. Hmm. And I would put the pistol to my head, and I would pull the trigger.
And just kind of leave it up to fate because you didn't really know if one was in the chamber?
Yeah.
Goodness. And I ask that because I want to get some insight into why. Why'd you do that? Like, why were you at least considering taking your own life?
I felt like a complete failure. I wanted so badly to be this type of person that I was never able to be. And I felt like I let down my unit, and I let myself down. I felt like I let down my family, and I felt useless. And yeah, I just felt useless. And I was confused. I was confused about my childhood, confused about the things I had done in my past. And I didn't think that my thoughts meant anything. They didn't mean anything important to me, or my feelings, or that my feelings were important.
Is there anything anyone could have done at that time that would have helped you out, you think?
I think so, but I kept all this stuff to myself. I never really told anybody about it. I didn't want anybody to worry about me. Like, I mean, I know now, man, like, if I were to have actually done that, it would have been such a hassle for everyone else.
Not to mention they would have been horribly sad.
Yeah.
They would have forever questioned what they could have done, why they didn't do this or that, and they would have no chance to ever, revive them, or they'll never have a chance to actually do it, I guess, to do what they could have done. It would have been terrible. It happens all the time. Sorry to cut you off there. My bad.
That's okay. Yeah, like, and not only would my family and friends be mortified and devastated by what I had done. Every emergency services would have to come in and take care of my body. I'd be taking away valuable resources from the state, the city. Everybody involved would be spending time trying to clean up my mess.
Hey, man, though, I just want to say also you'd be ending an infinitely valuable life that could have incredible, and will have incredible, that has infinite potential, but will have an incredibly positive impact on the lives of a lot of people in the world. Like, it's one thing to worry about, that'll be an inconvenience to people to clean up and stuff, but also the world is losing someone that could have been an immense force for good. I just want to tell you that, because it sounds like you're saying the biggest problem was this or that, but hey, no, the biggest problem is the world's losing an incredible human being. That's in just my opinion. The world's losing it and your family's losing it. It's very sad, but I mean, sad day for the human race, even people that never knew you, because the world would have been better if you are a force for good, because people like to think they're one dust particle in a million dust particles, but that's not true. You're one node in a network, which means you are one point from which 10 other points encompass and connect to, and then from them that allows 20 other points to connect to them. But if you don't connect, you're literally affecting in a negative way, if you die, all these different connections. People don't understand how immensely valuable they are. Fact. Even people that, if you're interacting with people. It's one thing if you're sitting in a room by yourself 24/7 forever, you shouldn't do that. First of all, you have way too much potential to be wasting your life and your livelihood and your all that, to be wasting it. But anyway, I just wanted to say that you're talking about people cleaning it up. That's not the most important thing. The saddest tragedy is your family and your friends losing someone they love, but also the world losing a force for good. Just wanted to say that. Sorry, continue. But you're bummed.
Okay.
You're bummed out about. You didn't like thinking about people coming and cleaning it up and whatnot.
Yeah, it's more like an antidote. Like you said, we're all just a part of this big interconnected system, and no matter how useless you think you are affecting the lives of others if you take your life.
Oh yeah. And you're affecting the lives of others in either a positive or negative way. It's like, be careful of, you have the power to make sure that you're affecting them in a positive way. But while you're alive, you're affecting people, like it or not, And if you kill yourself, you're absolutely negatively affecting a lot of people.
It's a stupid decision. It ends you, and it hurts everyone else. And we should be simply choosing to live in that situation is a much smarter decision, not only because you're still alive, but now nobody has to mourn over you. Choosing to tackle the difficult things that put you in this situation, or that is making you feel the way that you're feeling in this moment, is so much better for everyone and for you.
Have you told the people that mean the most to you since then that you love them a lot?
Yeah. I appreciate every single person in my life a lot more than I used to. I used to be very woe is me. Yes, I still kind of am sometimes. You know, I'm still not the Superman I wanted to be, but I don't really need to be that.
That Superman doesn't exist.
It does not.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous game trying to attain that, because you're setting yourself up for certain failure, you know. We all have our flaws. It's all right to try to want to be a hero, to be courageous, because that's possible, but to be, the guy that doesn't feel is not even a good thing, and it's also unattainable. It leads to destruction. It's prideful, there's a reason pride's a deadly sin, but
your feelings, any feeling that you're having, any thought that you're having is totally valid. It comes from somewhere. It came from you. It came from your experiences. And you don't let anybody tell you that it doesn't matter, because it does.
It absolutely does. Your feelings and your emotions absolutely matter. Maybe that's what someone can take from this episode a little bit, is acknowledge others' feelings, acknowledge your own feelings, and also be kind enough to make someone feel validated, I guess, feel okay for feeling what they feel, acknowledged.
Yeah.
It seems like you could have used that when you were growing up.
I definitely could have.
I think we all can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, before we wrap this up, what do you want to do now? You've really it's incredible that you've made it through what you've made it through. And you have a brilliant insight that not a lot of people can have. You've experienced things that a lot of people have not been able to experience, and you're facing those experiences with a lot of grace. And when you face the worst the experience is, if you can face it with an adequate amount of grace, I think you come out a stronger, more refined version of yourself. I always say, everyone gets put in the flame. We're all just this crude iron ore, but we get put in a flame and we get the crap beat out of us. We come out the other side. As long as we don't break, we come out steel, and we come out pure and stronger and a better tool for a million different uses. So you're steel now, not saying you don't feel stuff, and you're still fragile in ways, because we all are. We're humans. What do you want to do with your life now?
I want to help people who have been through difficult times like I have. I don't want to compare my experiences to anyone else's. I just want to help them. I want to help them find themselves and find peace in their lives. And I think the best way, I've thought this for a while, the best way for me to do that is to become a psychotherapist. I've wanted to be a psychotherapist for about 5 years. Unfortunately, I hadn't been able to pursue that goal because of the position I was in, being psychologically unfit to go to college and stick to my dreams. It just wasn't feasible for me at the time. But now that I am that hardened steel, as you say, I believe in myself that I can come out on the other end.
Do it then, man. Do it then. You have so much potential. You're really an incredible guy, Alex. I mean, what you've made it through, and your stories, it's just incredible. It's saddening, but more than it's saddening, some people are like, hey, why do you have all these sad stories? They're not sad. They're actually the best stories. They're incredible stories, because this should give us all hope. And what's more valuable than hope? I mean, gosh darn it. If some kid went through something that you went through, some kid found himself in a molestation situation, which is terrible and traumatic. He's like, I'm screwed. I'm PTSD. I'm done for. I'm all messed up. No one's gonna like me. I can't have bull crap. You have a girlfriend right now. Sorry to put that in that personal information. You're living with your girlfriend. You're a good guy, man. You're trying to do good in the world. You're strong. You're extremely intelligent. You're emotionally knowledgeable. Man, you're just going to be such a force for good in this world. And I'm proud of you. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're alive. I really am. And I could go on and on and on, man. And just thank you for your time today. And man, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Alex Sullivan, that's a wrap, my man. We're back for just 1 second. Alex wanted to get back on and say something here. So, hey, man, before we wrap this thing up for good, what else did you want to say before we do so?
If you've ever experienced guilt in your life when you were a child or at any point in your life at all, something that really helped me move on from my guilt was imagine a person in your age group when you did whatever it was that you were guilty of, and give to that person. Imagine yourself telling that person what you think that they need, and then apply that to yourself. Because often we don't give ourselves the self-love that we desperately need. That was the best thing I think I could have done for myself. And I do that all the time now, and it makes life so much easier to remove yourself from the situation for just a second and think about someone else that was in your position and what you would say to them.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely correct. We've both read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and he has a chapter in there called Treat Yourself as You Would Treat Someone Who You're Responsible for Taking Care of. Treat yourself as a loved one that you're responsible for taking care of. People are, I think, 50% likely to stop taking their medications prescribed by the doctor after like a couple months, but they're like 90% likely to, after a few months in that same time span, to give their animals, their pets, the correct amount of the medication on time and everything.
Yeah.
People are better at, especially people who are depressed or going to see a therapist, they're better at taking care of other people than they are themselves sometimes, and giving other people the love that they also require. So yeah, I like that. You could even brainstorm, like, what would I say to someone who is in my situation? Okay, now let me just say that to myself then. Take your own advice sometimes,
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I'm glad we came back on to say that. And again, very glad you're here. Alex Sullivan, thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor to talk to you, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm looking forward to your future.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Right on, man. Boom. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Paul Garcia Show. If you appreciate this episode, please give it a like, leave a comment, and give it a share. And if you appreciate this show, a fantastic and zero-cost way to support it is by subscribing to my page on YouTube, liking my page on Facebook, and following me on Instagram. If you'd like to support this show's production financially, please consider becoming a patron on patreon.com/Paul Garcia, where you can get early access to each and every episode and have your name run across the bottom of the screen at the beginning of every show for as little as $1 a month. You can also give $5 or $10 or even $15, but that's the cutoff. Also, you can donate on the Venmo app any dollar amount to username The Paul Garcia Show. Until next Sunday, I'm Paul Garcia. Thanks for watching. God bless and have a great week.